everybody, it's me, and I'm here with an overview of next month's Great Artist Lesson for our 3rd through 5th graders. We are continuing our Famous Artist series, and this is the last art lesson that they will get for the year, and the last artist they're going to learn about and have a project for is an artist by the name of Victor Vasarely. I'm going to talk a little bit about the lesson itself, and then I will go in and talk about the project. This lesson we're going to do a little differently. Typically we talk about the artist first in their life. This time we're going to talk about the art first to kind of capture, it's very eye-catching art, so it's in an effort to capture their interest and their wonder. And so you'll have some posters, some printed artwork around the classroom, and you're just going to engage a conversation with them and ask questions. And in the leader's guide there are questions that you can ask, but you can always add more. But the kind of questions that we want to ask to really kind of capture their interest is things like, how do they feel when they look at this art piece, and what shapes do they see, what kind of art is this, and we want to give them a definition of what kind of art it is that they're looking at, and it's called opt art. So we ask them if they can identify what it is, and then we explain what it is, the fact that it is a visual art that uses illusion just with a flat surface, and we go on to explain this, that's basically with shapes and colors. We can change the way a two-dimensional piece of paper looks into a three-dimensional artwork that even sometimes looks like it's moving. And then we go on to talk about how this type of art is, unlike a lot of the other art that they've learned about, it is unemotional. It's not about telling a story. It's about capturing the eye. It's about making the mind stretch and think. So we have a little discussion about what is traditional art versus what is opt art and some of those differences. The fact that traditional art has a subject and that opt art is all about eye-bulging sensation. So in the leader's guide, there's a couple of little comparisons there. And then one of the last things that we say before we move on to talk about the artist is that we simply ask the kids what medium do they think that these pieces of artwork were made with. Now typically kids look at this kind of art and they automatically, because they belong to a computerized world, that's how they grew up from the time ago, they look at this type of artwork and they go, oh well, that was done on a computer. Well, to me, one of the things that I found most fascinating, well, these pieces of artwork were done in the 60s and 70s. There was no computer to do these artworks on. So these were done by hand, and the artist did them in paint. Pretty amazing. So we talk about the art first, we give them a little summary, and we lead into the fact that some artists, they're not about telling their story. They're just about capturing the attention of the artist and using shape and color and form to make the mind stretch and to make the eyes work in very creative and wonderful ways. So we do this first, and then we get in and we talk about, we say, well, let's tell you about the guy who made these and how he became to be. So we start with the basics, as we always do with every artist, and we go over some basic facts. Here he is, Victor Vasarely, born in 1906 in Hungary. He, as many other artists, was a person at a very young age who showed some exceptional skill. At the age of 7, he astonished his family with his ability to draw precisely. He was fascinated by lines and patterns, and later on in high school, he became obsessed with line maps and grids and lines that were in physics. And he filled his notebooks with grids and patterns. So this was a fascination of his, a obsession of his that started early on in his life, and it carried him through all the way through work and into doing what he ultimately loved, which was art. Here on this slide, we have a lot of visual cues to help you along with the discussion, and this is where we talk about the artist's education. And Victor Vasarely went to medical school. He was going to become a doctor, but his love for art grew so much that he dropped out. But he had to support himself. He had to get a job to pay his bills so he could pursue his dreams. So he worked in a ball bearing factory doing posters during the day, and at night he was an accountant. But when he went to school, some of his most favorite assignments were the abstract assignments where he had to express interesting things just by doing abstract art. He had to express things like heavy, tender, soft, and calm. And you look at these paintings of his right here, and you're like, okay, so which one is the heavy one and tender, soft, and calm? So this is an opportunity for you to turn to the classroom and say to them, all right, so he had to express using abstract art the word heavy, or the art had to express calm or soft. Which one of these things, which one of these art pieces would you consider soft? Which one of them do you consider tender? So it's just a way to engage them in the conversation and in the idea that looking at a piece of artwork isn't just about painting pretty colors. Sometimes there is a matter of expression that's in there. As his fascination grew, what did he do? He went off, like most artists do, to Paris, the mecca of art. He still had to support himself in pursuing his dreams, so he worked as a graphic artist. And one of the series that he did, because he was most interested in optical and structural effects, he did a black and white series using checkerboards and patterns and cubes to kind of show and support that idea and to explore the idea of optical and structural effects. So he went on to create a series of paintings that use geometrical effects to suggest motion in static forms. And this is a prime example that you see right here. This is in an art gallery. These are flat paintings, but at the right angle, they appear as if they're bulging out of the wall. And this is the entertainment to the eye that he always pursued. He was considered what was called a pioneer. He was the grandfather of kinetic art and op art. And there's some definitions here that you can go over with the kids, but it's really just to let them see how extraordinary using geometric shapes and color can create these eye-bulging, eye-catching, mind-stretching, I keep saying those words over and over again because that's exactly what they do, pieces of artwork. Lastly, we talk about Victor Vasarely's goal to better mankind through art. For him, it wasn't just about painting on the canvas, but it was also about taking art out into the world and making it an experience in the urban landscape. It was about taking a very simple and unaesthetic space and turning it into an aesthetic experience, rich with color and shape and form. We transition the kids out of talking about the artists and transition them into their artwork. And as we transition them, we need to remind them of a couple of things about Victor Vasarely because it's directly going to correlate with their piece of artwork. So the fact that Victor Vasarely, he developed this over decades, this style of geometric abstract art, and he used various materials. But the thing that he did do is it's all about using minimal number of forms and colors. So if you look at these landscape pieces of work that he did here, like for instance, the building on the bottom, which is a museum, it only has 3 colors in it, and it has very minimal shapes. We are going to expect them to do their own op art piece using minimal colors and minimal shapes to create a very aesthetically pleasing experience for the person who views it. All right, it is project time. And as always, before we get into the project or pass out any supplies, we're going to want to go over some directions with them. Every student's going to be given a piece of drawing paper, and they will use some tutorials. We'll have tutorials for them on to create various different types of op art pieces. Now you're going to randomly pass these out, and they get what they get, and they don't throw a fit. But if they want to trade with someone, they're more than welcome to. And as you see here on the slide, these are examples of what they will be working on. We want to go over their supplies with them. They're going to have some pencils in order to lightly draw their op art piece, and a ruler will be available if they want it in order to make straight lines. And then they have a choice of colors of markers or pencils, or a combo of. And then lastly, there will be some permanent markers, some black permanent markers for them to outline anything that they want to outline. So it's pretty straightforward. We give them a piece of paper, they get the tutorial. The tutorial will break it down for them how to do one of these 4 different types of op art pieces. And as long as they follow the instructions, they should be okay, and then they color it. And again, sticking to that, the idea of what Victor Vasarely did, they stick to simple shapes and simple colors in order to create these fabulous, wonderful op art pieces. And that's pretty much it. We give them the supplies, we give them tutorials, we walk around and encourage their art and help them when need be, and that's pretty much it. And this is their last project. So at the end of the time with them, you want to remind them that this is their last art project and that they will be working with their teachers to pick out their most favorite piece from the year to put up at open house. So that's it. That's all we've got. That's the whole year. We're done. If you have any comments or questions or concerns, by all means, pick up the phone or drop me a line. I appreciate you. Thank you so much, and happy creating. See you in the hallways.